Follow these exact steps to get your blue-eye lemon bristlenose to breed. Step 1, make sure you've got one healthy female bristlenose and one healthy male. These guys are always in their caves. There's no chance I'm getting them out. Step 2 is all about habitat. So I'm pulling some pre-sunk driftwood out of another tank. Botanicals like seed pods and like Indian almond leaves are gonna do the trick. All three of those things are gonna make the water soft and give these guys the perfect habitat that replicates their natural environment. Where the males take care of the eggs and where the females lay the eggs is in caves. Now there's a few hacks with cave placement. First thing is you don't want them to be too close together because the males will fight for territory. I make sure to have a communal cave. This one's hollow. You place all of your caves out nice and evenly. And then the pieces of driftwood that you choose for your tank, I chose this one because it's got a nice flat bottom. You literally sit it on top of all the caves. So the girls hang out in the driftwood and the guys hang out in the caves. And that ends up making the perfect little environment for spawn after spawn after spawn to happen. If you follow the next few steps. So these are the botanicals. They'll drop the pH of the water. Some males are smaller and they like to be able to get their fins pressed up against the walls of the cave. So I like to always add in different sizes. You'll see big, small, extra small, I guess. Now, if you followed step 1, you've got a healthy breeding pair. And step 2, your habitat's nice and set up. Added botanicals, nitrates in the water are nice and low, and you've got a nice knot of driftwood for them to hang out in. Then you can move on to step 3. I want you to start thinking about the temperature of your tank. Bristlenose, which is just a common ancistrus strain, love water around 22, 23 degrees. That seems to be the sweet spot for me getting them to breed over and over and over and over again. Remember, if you've got other fish in your tank, make sure that when you drop the heater, those fish aren't gonna suffer under the drop, so do your research. Bristlenose absolutely love scenarios where the nitrates may spike, which is gonna happen when you do step 3, conditioning, and then they drop. And that drop can be through either water changes or really, really effective layers of duckweed or floating plants. Because they're more effective at sucking the nitrates out of your tank, you're going to get a spike in nitrates and then a drop in nitrates, which is something that triggers the spawning process in Ancistrus. Love it or hate it, duckweed is really effective at sucking the nitrates out of your tank. It doesn't have to be duckweed. It can be other floating plants, but I've found duckweed is the king. The last part of stage 2 is tannins. You'll notice that this tank's got a little bit of a tint to it in comparison to the tank next to it, yeah? It looks almost like it's dirtier, muddier. What this is the tannins leaching out of your driftwood, of your botanicals, and creating a lower pH environment, which your bristlenose tend to absolutely love. So if you get really bad leaching and your tank goes tinted or like pea water color, rest easy, it's a good thing. Now, if step 1 and step 2 didn't deliver you a spawn, which it should have, but if it didn't, it's time to focus on the rigorousness and health of your bristlenose, and that is through conditioning. What that looks like is my bristlenose get a fresh few slices of zucchini every single day, put it in a skewer, sunk in their tank, and they generally finish it by the morning. They also get daily algae wafers. That's around about 1/8 of an algae wafer per adult, on top of the zucchini. And the last thing is a heavy, meaty food. People don't tend to like to do this because it's not a common thing in the bristlenoses diet, but the females tend to get really eggy after having some protein. So the king of all is blackworms. Next in line, frozen bloodworms. And the next in line, if you absolutely can't find a live or frozen food, some kind of a protein sinking pellet. Now the key here is you don't want to keep feeding them the meaty foods. Only do it for around a 2-week period. After that, you need to give them a break. But 2 weeks is more than enough for a female to get full, eggy, and want to have a spawn, and more than enough for a male to get enough fat on him to want to sit in a cave for a long time. Follow that conditioning regime and then rest them for at least a month. If you don't get a spawn, 1 month off, and then back on the conditioning regime. That's the solution to fixing any spawn issue ever. You follow those tips, you'll get a spawn guaranteed. Now, follow this link to work out what to do once the girl's laid her eggs.